Between 50 and 80 were inside when it fell. Elsewhere, though, there is still a faint chance more survivors can be found. At one city centre office block, a woman was pulled alive from the rubble after more than 25 hours trapped. This dramatic footage, filmed on Tuesday, shows the conditions under which rescuers are working. Dark, dangerous, but the result here, a life saved. Al Jazeera has obtained new footage of the moment the earthquake hit a Christian leadership meeting.
There's the earthquake I told you we were going to have. That's there.
The carnage it caused seen firsthand by New Zealand's Prime Minister on Wednesday.
All New Zealanders have a piece of our heart in Christchurch. All of our lives are touched by this event. A friend or a family member who lives there, a time spent studying or a memorable experience there. We feel connected to your suffering. Your tragedy is our tragedy. Today I want Christchurch to hear this message. You will get through this. This proud country is right behind you, and we are backing you with all our might.
As if conditions weren't already tough enough, concerned that aftershocks could bring more buildings tumbling down. This hotel, one of the tallest buildings in town, leans precariously to one side. Each new sway of the ground, and on Wednesday there have been many, brings fears it will fall. This building is typical now of so many in Christchurch. A real mess. You can see the walls have been ripped off, rooms exposed, rubble on the ground. It was actually hit by the more minor earthquake in September and was being restored after that earthquake when yesterday's hit. And yesterday's, I'm afraid, finished it off. Out of town too, the fort's clear. Beautiful tourist drives, now rock-strewn assault courses. In the city, everyone affected. Water, where available, must be boiled. Half of all homes without power. Those that can, leaving. Christchurch Airport reopen, but packed with people desperate to get out. New Zealand is one of the least populated countries on Earth, famous for its wide open spaces. The terrible irony here, that this quake hit one of its most crowded places at one of its busiest times. Andrew Thomas, Al Jazeera, Christchurch.
Protests have been going on in Yemen for 2 weeks, and now 7 members of the ruling party have resigned, saying they'll form a new independent bloc. 2 pro-democracy activists were killed and more than 10 were injured in clashes overnight. Witnesses say that armed government supporters opened fire at demonstrators in the capital, Sana'a, and that's where Al Jazeera's Hashim Ahanbara is with the latest update.
There appears to be more cracks on the government and the political elite here in Yemen. The Minister of Tourism, Nabil Hassan al-Faqih, has told President Ali Abdullah Saleh that huge reforms are overdue and that Yemen needs early elections in September 2011 without Ali Abdullah Saleh as running as a candidate for the Minister of Tourism. This is the only way to save Yemen from impasse and from further deterioration of the security situation. 8 members of the ruling party have also resigned from the parliament, citing concerns over situation in Yemen and the violent attacks on the pro-democracy protesters. We also understand that the second highest ranking official at the Ministry of Local Administration has also resigned over what he describes as rampant corruption and violent attacks by government loyalists against pro-democracy protesters. Ali Abdullah Saleh remains defiant. He's saying that he understands that people are looking forward to change, but therefore change should be only dictated by ballot box, and that he refuses this whole idea of people inspired by events in Libya, Tunisia and Egypt and taking to the streets to enforce their own agenda of change.
7 people have been injured during clashes in the Greek capital, Athens. During the demonstration, a policeman was set alight as he tried to put the fire out. Other officers rushed to his aid. Protesters also hurled rocks at the security forces, who responded with tear gas, and tens of thousands of people took part in the protests, which were part of a general strike against the austerity measures. At least 4 people have been arrested. Residents in Abidjan have fled their homes, fearing more violence after reports of gun battles in one of the neighborhoods. It's thought up to 15 soldiers who supported the incumbent leader, Laurent Gbagbo, were killed during an ambush. Much more coming up on the Al Jazeera News Hour. We'll have more on the steps that nations are taking to get their citizens out of Libya. And we'll get your views and take a look at some of the videos being posted online from inside the country. Stay tuned.
It is in the details. A look. A connection. The moments that reveal the truth. Award-winning documentaries from critically acclaimed filmmakers. Witness documentaries to open your eyes. At this time on Al Jazeera.
East Timor's government has declared it's time for foreign forces to leave the country. But with a frail infrastructure, is this nation prepared to face a future without international support? 101 East at this time on Al Jazeera.
Without context, words can lose their meaning. Al Jazeera's coverage of the Israeli-Palestinian divide makes a complicated story easier to understand. Al Jazeera, every angle, every side.
Our top story on Al Jazeera is the crisis in Libya, and I'll just run you through some of the main developments. Italy says that claims that 1,000 people have been killed in Libya are credible. The country's foreign minister, Franco Frattini, expects up to 300,000 refugees will head to Italy. He's described it as an exodus of biblical proportions. The first Western city is now reportedly under the control of protesters. A witness says 6 people were killed and 200 injured in Misurata. That's around 120 kilometers west of the capital, Tripoli. European Union governments have agreed to prepare possible sanctions against Libya in response to Gaddafi's violent crackdown. And proposed measures could include visa bans, freezing assets, and an arms embargo. Well, thousands of people are fleeing Libya. More than a dozen countries have sent planes to help their citizens leave. Turkey is carrying out the largest evacuation operation in its history. And an army general has told Al Jazeera a Libyan Air Force pilot refused to bomb the city of Benghazi, choosing instead to eject from his plane. The general said his forces are backing the anti-government protesters now. And Libya's former justice minister has told a Swedish newspaper that he has proof Gaddafi personally ordered the Lockerbie bombing, which killed 270 people in 1988. So those are the latest developments out of Libya. But while the U.S. has been cautious on the issue of sanctions against the country, European Union governments are moving towards possibly imposing restrictions. And we can go back to Nick Clark in Washington for more. Nick.